John here.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, are we all ready? Call the meeting back to order. Have a motion to come out of closed session?
Move. Second.
Motion is made by Director Stewart, seconded by Director Washington. All in favor?
Aye.
We're out of closed session at 6:12. Public report on action taken in closed session is no reportable action. And we will now move to our 6 o'clock open session. And at this time, I will dispense with the reading of the statute, but we will open the floor for public comments. And at this time, anybody who wishes to address the board on non-agenda items, can please approach the podium. And being as there are no public comments, we will close public comments at this time. Move on to minutes. Do I have a motion to approve minutes?
Move. Second.
Motion made by Director Stewart, second by Director Washington. Any comment on the minutes? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve consent calendar?
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Director Glennon, seconded by Director Stewart. Any discussion on the consent calendar? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Okay, at this time, presentations, PR1 from the AV Board of Trade update, presenter Rick CAULKINS. And floor is all yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. If I may, I'd like to pass out some materials that we brought for you to keep. That's fine. Thank you. Be happy to give copies to anybody else who's interested. If there's anybody in the audience who would like a copy,
You'll
I'd be
get one.
happy to give them to you as well.
Perfect.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Wood, directors of the board, thank you very much for having me today to talk about the Antelope Valley Board of Trade and the merger with Gavia. And so we would like to reinforce the benefits, the advantages of Board of Trade membership for an organization like mine, the County Sanitation Districts of LA, organizations like Mr. Banks, the Antelope Valley Air Quality Management District, and many, many other members of the Antelope Valley Board of Trade, both public and private members. And what are some of the reasons to be a member of the Board of Trade? Well, the Board of Trade is an opportunity to monitor the pulse of the community in many ways. We have large stakeholders, public and private, with their interests laid bare for action to be taken. It gives us the opportunity to learn about our neighbors, to fight good fights with them, to have relationships with them in arenas that are not ordinary to our businesses, and that fosters the growth of relationships in the community and strengthens the community. We take action on our committees. We're a legislative advocacy organization. We advocate for transportation, education, aerospace industry. I would point out that that the North County Transportation Authority was born out of the Board of Trade's Transportation Committee by the Board of Trade demonstrating the need to meet, discuss, advocate, and call for action on transportation issues. We actually were basically the fathers of the North County Transportation Authority. We're proud of that. We also provide economies of scale for small communities, small organizations who can't afford on their own to pay for legislative advocacy, to pay for business business attraction and retention. These are efforts that require tremendous amounts of effort, tremendous amounts of capital. We pool together the resources of public and private entities throughout the valley for strong advocacy on all of these fronts. And we encourage you, the Rosemead Community Services Districts, to take advantage of that, take advantage of these economies of scale. When I say economies of scale, I'm talking about how when you do a lot of something, the unit cost goes down. If you try to do a little bit on your own, it's going to cost more per unit than if you pool with others. And I think the best example of that is it's much easier to build 1,000 homes, cheaper per square foot, than to build one home. These are economies of scale that we want to take advantage of. And the Board of Trade offers the opportunity for that. We also provide results that we can point to and be proud of. One of the primary results of the Board of Trade's advocacy was the formation of the Antelope Valley Air Quality Management District. Now, I know that in Roseman, you're part of the Kern Air Quality Management, East Kern Air Quality Management. Thank you. However, much of the valley used to be under the South Coast Air Quality Management District down in Los Angeles, basically the LA Basin Air Board. And we recognize in the Board of Trade, the members of the Board of Trade, because the value of us is our membership. The members of the Board of Trade recognize that the science in the Antelope Valley is not necessarily reflective of the governance of the South Coast Air Quality Management District. We have a very different air basin up here. It needs to be regulated in a very different way. And for us to be under the onerous regulatory pressures of the South Coast Air Quality Management District was an onerous burden to business, particularly manufacturing, rolling stock, people with generators, people with large diesel equipment. It was unfair and not science-based the way that we were governed by South Coast Air Quality Management District. The Antelope Valley Board of Trade recognized that, took action, and we're better off for that as a community. We're a stronger manufacturing base than we ever were because of that. We also have some other important accomplishments to point to: accelerating the pace of bringing the 14 freeway to reality, bringing the Federal Aviation Administration ground control for LAX to Palmdale. These are accomplishments that the Board of Trade spearheaded. Bringing Cal State University Long Beach engineering program to Lancaster was a result of the Board of Trade's effort to bring Cal State University to the region. Base retention, Edwards and China Lake, NASA projects such as Fighting for Sophia, renaming Dryden to Armstrong, tax opportunity zones, working to block job killer bills. All of these things strengthen the Antelope Valley. In addition, the annual Business Outlook Conference is a major point of success for the Antelope Valley Board of Trade, in a way that we bring a lot of our work to the public for direct benefit. And that's precisely what I'd like to talk about this evening, is our experience this year with our conference. This year's conference theme was Building Careers, Building Communities. Building careers, building communities is a way of saying that education is the bedrock of our community, education of our society. Without solid education, we're worse off in so many arenas. With good, solid education, we're a stronger community, we're safer, we're more prosperous, and more economically viable. The economics of education are obvious. When you educate, you become prosperous. And one of the things that the Antelope Valley, one of the challenges that we have in the Antelope Valley is dealing with websites like greatschools.com, which you'll see prominently when you go to Zillow or a number of real estate websites. You look at a community, you look at a neighborhood, and you can click on the schools. What are the schools like? Well, the statistics that you get clicking on the schools in the Antelope Valley do not tell the whole story. we're a complex society in the Antelope Valley. We're a conglomeration of some of the brightest engineers, scientists in the country, working for NASA, Edwards, Lockheed, Northrop, Boeing. We're a treasure trove of knowledge. And these are parents of children in our schools, and these parents are eager to be part of the schools. And they help provide some of the most unique experiences you can find in the country. On the other hand, the children of these people are enrolled in school with some of the poorest, hungriest children in LA County, in Southern California. Children with no address, children with no breakfast. How do you balance out the children of the brightest in the country with some of the poorest in Southern California? And what we want to do is we want to show how rising tides raise all ships, and how we can leverage the good with the good with the challenges that we have. So this year's conference was based solely on what's the good in the Antelope Valley schools. How can we highlight the good, show what the good is, continue to show what the good is year after year until people see and understand and believe that our schools are exemplary because of the people that live in the Antelope Valley, the exceptional people in the Antelope Valley. And my wife grew up in a family where they did not know if they were going to have a meal the next day. They were dirt poor. Grew up in Phelan, California, right down the road. My wife is a perfect example of how education can lift you. She went from being one of the poorest children in the Snowline Union School District to being a professor of physical chemistry at the Claremont Colleges, one of the top universities in the nation. And that personal pride, I think, can be extrapolated into community pride, starting with the fact that she got her first degree at Antelope Valley College. And I believe in just my own household, we have a prime example of how you can take advantage of what's in the Antelope Valley and excel, and become and teach in a university like the Claremont Colleges, where people clamor from across the country to get into that school. And one of your alumni, one of our alumni from Antelope Valley College is a distinguished professor in that environment. And that's something that I think we should all be proud of in the Antelope Valley. And there's story after story like that. Nehemiah Knight, we invited to speak. This young lady has reached out to millions of people and spoken personally to over 20,000 people throughout the United States on how to leverage your abilities to excel in STEM education. Henry Winkler was our keynote speaker this year. Henry Winkler, most people don't know, was an undiagnosed dyslexic in a time when you were labeled as dumb, lazy, unmotivated, worthless if you were dyslexic. They didn't know that it was something that could be dealt with. He excelled anyway. He actually became part of the professional acting company at Yale, being a dyslexic. He couldn't read or write. He had to memorize things, ad-lib things. His message to us was so powerful this year on rising above, how you can rise above. And these inspirational messages that we have at our conference like this are so unifying. And they bring the community together, leaders of the community, public officials such as yourselves, the top management from huge companies like Northrop, Boeing, Lockheed, managers of NASA, generals at Edwards Air Force Base. The theme of our conference this year was born of a comment from General Dragon Tykart, who said that when his airmen have children, they're heading for the door. As soon as they have children, they're looking for somewhere with a better school district. We have to combat that, and that was the theme of our conference this year. And we're going to continue we're going to continue to pound what's good about Antelope Valley Schools and keep on pounding that until it's just a known fact that our schools are exemplary. So why sponsor an event like that? The Sanitation District sponsors the Business Outlook Conference every year. We've done so for the last 15 years. The Antelope Valley Air Quality Management District, the County of Los Angeles, and many, many others sponsor this event at various levels. The Sanitation Districts of Los Angeles County were proud sponsors. However, I'll point out that we're at the bottom rung. We're at the $1,250 sponsorship level, whereas people like ABTA, Edwards Federal Credit Union, the cities are at closer to the $15,000 sponsorship range. There's a very large range of sponsorship, and all levels of sponsorship have important benefits. You can have an impact on the message, take part in the planning of these conferences. What is it that's important to us? What message do we want to get out? What would help us? What would help our particular communities, our particular agencies, businesses? We can insert that somehow by being a part of a large event like this. This event had over 600 people, raised about $165,000 to make it. The messages of this conference, this year's message was so important to the strength of our community, the strength of our schools, the faith in our schools, and the pride that we have, all builds toward the value and worth of our community. And what we see as the value of our community is what others see that we see. We are the best example of our own successes. So one of the big benefits of sponsorship is the direct benefit of the message. How does this message impact Rosamond? How does improving the education of Rosamond impact the community? And I'll say that education gives you prosperity, safety, and pride. And so with that, I would like to ask BRET to make a few comments about the future of the organization, because as we're coming out off of the wake of such an successful event as the Board of Trade Outlook Conference on February 28th, we're also merging with another very well-known entity, Gavia. Gavia, the Greater Antelope Valley Economic Alliance, and the Board of Trade have had a lot in common for many years, and there is some real synergy in putting the two organizations together. And with that, I'd like to turn over to BRET Banks for a couple of comments on that front.
Neat. Well, thanks for the opportunity. Mr. Wood, I think you attended this year's conference, correct?
Yes.
Good, thanks for doing that. Rick touched a little bit about the two organizations, and one of the things that he has touched on, and I think I want to make clear, is there was a lot of references to Los Angeles County. We understand we're in Kern County, and we work closely with the folks in Kern County also, Kern County EDC, and the folks out of Edwards, and the businesses here in Rosamond and Mojave. And that's the whole idea, is to try to get a synergy, like Rick was talking about, for the Antelope Valley as a community. Let's stop Lancaster and Palmdale, arm wrestling with each other. Let's bring in Kern County and make it stronger for all of us. And that's the intent of merging these two organizations. The Greater Antelope Valley Economic Alliance focus and mission was all about retention and attraction of business. The Board of Trades was more legislative, and a lot of the things that Rick touched on were legislative things that were happening up in Sacramento, that we had our local legislators write rules, regulations, and laws that benefited the Antelope Valley. All we're trying to do with this merger is to get all that under one roof. There's a lot of that happening now in the Antelope Valley. The Palmdale and Lancaster Chambers of Commerce are looking at merging. There's just strength in those numbers. And we appreciate you attending. We're looking to, when this merger occurs, hopefully around July 1st, the new fiscal year, that your organization would consider being a part of the new organization. Because I think, again, there's strength in numbers, and if we can build the entire Antelope Valley as a cohesive unit, we're going to be stronger and better. So thanks for the opportunity, and we're here to answer any questions, but we appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I know that, I've known Rick for many, many, many years, and we've worked together for many years. And I've known him to be a tireless worker for students. And working in the college and working with the high schools and things of that nature, organizing tours of the water reclamation plants. And he's done a great service to this and been a loud voice for the Antelope Valley. And, you know, the Roseman kind of has a unique perspective. We're members of the Antelope Valley, but we're also in Kern County. And it's important to have a seat, you know, in partnership with the Antelope Valley, but also in partnership with our Kern County partners as well. Because this year, you know, at our table, we had a gentleman from the Mojave Chamber of Commerce, and so it had interesting conversations with him and his wife, and it's just a lot of great opportunity to exchange ideas. And the last 2 years that I've gone to the AV Board of Trade Outlook, I've learned a lot, but I've also seen that, you know, we need to be a part of these organizations to where we get our voice heard. And, you know, LA County Sanitation being a member of it, they see the value in it, and there's only 2 agencies in the entire Antelope Valley that deal in sewage treatment and water reclamation, and that's Rcsd and LA County Sanitation. And if for nothing else, just to be at the table with a fellow agency where we can exchange ideas and thoughts and try to move forward, because as Rick pointed out, you know, we are in a unique situation. Our air quality district is different. Our water is different. We're governed by the Lahontan Regional Board. We're just past the aqueduct, basically going into on the 14 freeway. You're in a different regional board altogether. So it's kind of like we're kind of all in this together. And the more that we participate, I think is a good thing. That's why I invited them to come here this evening. And I would like to, and other board members, you know, to chime in, but I would like to turn this over to our Public Affairs Committee and let them look at this and then bring back a recommendation to the board on, you know, on which way we move forward on this as far as sponsorship and at what level, you know, if that's what the recommendation of the committee is. But I'd like to send this to the Public Affairs Committee to hash this out. But at this time, I'd welcome any other board members to make any comments.
I was going to say this at director's time, but it fits here. Greg was there also, the other Greg, there's 2 Gregs, and I was there. I've lived in Roseman since 1947, and Roseman's always been stepchild in Bakersfield, and Antelope Valley never considered Roseman. I went to high school at AV because there was no high school in Roseman. There was just a little one in Palmdale and AV. And I ended up teaching at Roseman High School for 35 years in coaching. Your Board of Trade, the spotlight on Antelope Valley schools, K through 12, a lot of them in there. Roseman's Southern Unified District is not in there, okay? And in your program here on page 13, there is 3/5 of a page dealing with Roseman. No mention of the feline park, the racetrack, and I understand, I understand, you know, your goal is to develop that, but we've always, this is my take, I've been here a long time, we're always a stepchild as far as Bakersfield is concerned, and we're always a stepchild as far as Antelope Valley is concerned. At one point, you're probably aware that the Chamber of Commerce is merged to try to make things work, and it just never did develop. I think that we do need to probably dedicate some kind of a commitment to that, you know, so that we do get a face at the table, you know, a seat at the table. But the one thing that blew my mind, and I knew this, but going through it, this is hard to believe, but average household incomes, Mojave, $54,036. California City, $54,355. Lancaster, $76,719. Tehachapi, $77,617. Roseman, $77,627. Ridgecrest, $78,934, and Palmdale, $85,565. Mojave, California City, Lancaster, and Tehachapi have lower incomes than Roseman. Now, I have a hard time believing that, but that's, I'm sure those statistics are accurate. And it seems to me like we have the people here that have enough money that they should be involved in the community. And Ridgecrest, I don't know how you've reached out to Ridgecrest, but they're not considered an Antelope Valley, I don't guess, are they? Ridgecrest is?
No, but we've tried to reach out to them, and Tehachapi's involved,
Yeah.
along with Mojave, more through the Mojave Air and Spaceport,
Yeah.
but they're also a member.
Yeah. That's gonna be nothing but growing and growing and growing.
Yes,
And
sir.
they've got some money to put into having a face out there. Roseman needs a face out there, and we've always needed a face out there. And what we can do to help that. I made this same kind of a speech a couple years ago when the president of the college was the MC of the event, and it irritated him because there was no mention of much of Roseman at all in all of it, you know. And but that's just my take.
We'd love the opportunity.
I would like to invite you to our board meeting next Tuesday at 7:30 at Antelope Valley College. You're always welcome to attend our board meetings anytime that you like. And I would be happy to send you more information on the meeting room. Greg, I could send you that information if you'd like to pass that on.
Yeah.
Could you give that to the?
If you could give it to our assistant general manager, Lizette.
Sure.
and,
Absolutely.
And she will get all the information out to the board members.
We'd be honored to have you at our board meeting.
Okay, and I would like to come.
And I would like to apologize on behalf of the Board of Trade for leaving Roseman out of our Great Schools pamphlet. That's a gross oversight that I don't even know how to apologize for.
I got a
But
question
again-
about schools.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for coming out tonight and sharing the highlights of the conference. And the theme was education, and something that I'm kind of sensing with the expanded workforce in aerospace industry. Is there added curriculum to certain schools in the like Palmdale, Lancaster area to kind of fast track students to jobs like Northrop and Plant 42, Technology High School, for example? I'm not really sure what's going on there, but it seems as though it fast tracks students too in industry as aerospace.
Yes, sir. So there are academies that the Antelope Valley Union High School District has put together at the various high schools. And Knight High School, for example, has a non-metallics fabrication situation where the students can go through there, and actually when they complete their senior year in high school, could go as an actual technician on the line at Mojave Air and Spaceport, at any of the aerospace companies in Palmdale. So they're trying to integrate that back, like probably when all of us went through school, like the shop classes and different things.
Exactly.
They're trying to bring that back in to actually give skills that the students can use when they leave high school. So yes, there are those.
Yeah, I would point out that Palmdale has the Health Academy, where they're preparing students for nursing degrees. Quartz Hill has a very active auto shop program, which Greg and I have hosted tours for, customized tours of our treatment plant, to show these kids that there are more things to work on than cars. You know, giant wastewater treatment plant equipment and such, instrumentation. And the schools have very robust career tech programs in that regard. So yes, that's one of the things that I think that we have a lot to be proud of in this region, where most of the state is eliminating shop classes altogether, focusing on college-only type curriculum. Antelope Valley schools are doing the exact opposite, focusing on manufacturing jobs, tech skills, etc. So thank you. That's an excellent question.
Yeah, they used to have regional occupational programs, but I don't think they don't have, Southern Current did, but there are RP programs. But with the money, and when you start to cut, that's the places you cut, where you actually probably shouldn't, that's where you cut.
All right, well, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
And look forward to talking more with you on this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, at this time, we'll move on to new business. New business one, adopt resolution 2020-7, authorizing the general manager to sign consolidation agreements for the parties identified by the State Water Resources Control Board. And Lizette, you have a report on that?
Brock has actually been working closely with Stephen. He's going to give a presentation on it.
These are just gonna kind of dwindle in, so we need to be ready to sign them when we come in.
Correct. The resolution you have before you is to authorize the general manager to sign the agreements as a requirement of the State Water Resources Control Board for the Rosemont Regional Arsenic Compliance or Arsenic Consolidation Project. These agreements were drafted by Rcsd legal counsel, and in 2015 we completed the engineering portion of this regional compliance consolidation project. And in order to move forward with construction funding, we need to have signed agreements with the 8 parties that are interested in joining or annexing into the district. Each agreement is slightly different because there are different mutuals, different water districts joining in. So they're all specifically tailored to the individual water districts joining. This would give the general manager authority to execute those agreements with the signing parties for those agencies.
And this will be able to allow the general manager to expedite these without having to come back to the board for approval for each one, correct?
Correct, and the funding for this project is very dependent on these signed agreements, so we would like to expedite this process.
We hope it's a domino effect, right? That once one signed, then they
Yes.
all jump in line.
Okay. Any other discussion? Have a motion to approve resolution number 2020-7?
Motion?
Second.
Motion was made by Director Washington, seconded by Director Stewart. Roll call vote.
Director Washington?
Yes.
Director Glennon?
Yes.
Director Stewart?
Yes.
President Wood?
Yes. And it carries 4 yeses to 0. Okay, new business 2, adopt resolution number 2020-6, approving the adoption of the 2019 update to the Antelope Valley Integrated Regional Water Management Plan. And Brock?
Yes, the Antelope Valley Integrated Regional Water Management Plan was originally developed in 2007 to allow grant funding or access to grant funding for the entire Antelope Valley. Whenever there is new grant funds available, an update is required. So this plan has been updated multiple times over the years. The most recent update was the 2019 update to meet the 2016 Prop 1 grant guidelines. In order for the region to receive grant funding, all of the members in this regional water management group have to approve the updates. Rcsd is one of the members, and we've also applied for grant funding through the IRWINT program. So we're asking you to approve this update so we can continue to be eligible for the grant funding.
Any discussion? Okay, do I have a motion to approve resolution 2020-6?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made by Director Glennon, seconded by Director Stewart. Roll call vote?
Director Washington,
Yes.
Director Glennon,
Yes.
Director Stewart,
Yes.
President White.
Yes. And it passes on a 4-0 vote. Okay, director's reports, comments, future agenda items. I'd like to start this off because I got kind of a little lengthy report here. I recently attended the Kern County Water Summit, sponsored by the Water Association of Kern County on March 4th, 2020 in Bakersfield. There were a lot of very educated and interesting speakers from all over the state, speaking on a wide range of topics concerning water throughout California and Kern County. Two of the speakers of the summit were Armando Quintero, chair of the California Water Commission, and Felicia Marcus, who recently served as chair of the State Water Resources Control Board. One of the things that stuck out to me was the state of our groundwater reserves in Kern County. Many of the speakers spoke of depleting and overdrafted basins. I had the pleasure of sitting next to a gentleman that was the director of farming operations for a very large farming company in Kern County. He said that while they are good on water right now, they do not have much of a reserve to fall back on in the event of a prolonged drought. And this brings me to a talk about, to me, was the most interesting speaker at the summit. And she is Christine Luther Zimmerman. She's a senior geotechnical engineer and member of the Technical and Regulatory Affairs team for the Western States Petroleum Association. Her speech was on oil and water, an update from California's energy industry. The main focus of her speech was on the subject of produced water, which is water that is located below the oil beds, deep in the ground, well below our existing aquifers. Produced water is what comes up with the oil when it is pumped to the surface, and currently, for every 42 gallons of oil that is produced, in other words, for every single barrel of oil, they bring up 15 barrels of water. And which translates to 630 gallons for every barrel of oil. And this is not considered wastewater, according to her presentation. Some of the water is so pure it requires no treatment, and some requires a little treatment before use. Some of this produced water is being used for direct irrigations for farms, but there is more water than anyone can use in that manner. So I asked the question to Christine Zimmerman that if the nitrates are below the level of 10, then could this water be pumped to depleting or overdrafted basins for percolation to replenish these basins for not only farming but communities' water needs as well? While Christine Zimmerman did not have the answer as far as nitrates, the concept did create a buzz about the possibilities. I did some math on this issue, and according to the latest numbers for Kern County, oil production as of November 2019, Kern County pumped 8.8 million barrels of oil. Using that number in Kern County alone, the oil industry is also producing 132 million barrels of produced water. That comes out to 5,544,000,000 gallons of water, which translates into 17,014 acre feet of new usable water per year. And, you know, we have an adjudicated basin that we're in here right now. And listening to the stories about depleted and overdrafted basins, you know, I asked about the possibility of looking into if we could pump this water to these basins. It would provide, that 17,000 acre feet of water would provide enough new water to supply a lot of farms in Kern County and a lot of homes in Kern County. And the response that I got back from a lot of people, it really made people start thinking. And I would like to give this report to staff. And I would like to see our staff run with this. Do some digging, do some checking, see what the feasibility is, that they've got all this water on their hands that is part of the process of getting the oil out of the ground. And, you know, and if there's a way that we can get this water, if it meets all of the Lahontan standards, which I think it is, because if they're currently using it for flood irrigation, it's got to be good enough water that is safe to percolate into the ground. But if this is feasible to where you can get counties or the state or other entities to buy into this, to build the infrastructure, I think we could solve a lot of our water problems here in Kern County alone, just with our oil production that we're doing. So that's my report on this, and I look forward to looking into this further to see if there's a possibility that maybe we can somehow utilize all this excess water that's showing up with the production of oil. And with that, Director Washington?
Yeah, I don't have anything tonight.
Director Stewart?
Nope.
What?
I'm on the stakeholder group for the California High-Speed Rail Authority that everybody complains about and is excited about. And anyway, on the 26th of March, they will be here at the Wanda Kirk Library from 5:30 to 7, explaining the route from Bakersfield to Palmdale. So if you're interested in that, come out. It is moving. It may be moving very slowly, but it's still in the works, the California High-Speed Rail. And of course, the biggest concern here is the feline park, and they still have great concerns. And the goal is, how are they going to mitigate them? Are they going to be able to move them? That kind of thing, because it's going to come in between the feline park or tropical gold mine there and the racetrack. That's where it's going to be coming across. And then I was going to talk about the summit that some of us went to. And then I was at the AVAC meeting last night, and maybe Greg can add to this. But listening to their consultant that gets grants for them, I was very pleased at what I know we're doing after listening to what they're doing, and how much success they're having and how much success we're having as far as our grants are concerned for the water bank. And they also brought up that there's going to be some dam repairs requirements in California, and it looks like it's going to cost AVAC about $5 million to kick into all of the money to repair the dams. And of course, if it's going to cost AVAC $5 million, it's going to do what? Be passed on to us. So we can expect maybe in the next couple of years more significant increase in AVAC's water than anticipated. And I don't know if you want to add anything
Well,
to that.
I did find that a little comical, that when it was reported that they were gonna have to pony up some money for the dam repairs in Northern California. It was like, huh? Why us? And so, but unfortunately, this is gonna be passed down to us, the customers, which all the water pumpers in the Antelope Valley, but it's work that is necessary. And considering the amount of work that has to be done to the dams and what happened a couple of years ago with the spillway at that dam, I think $5 million is getting off pretty cheap, as far as taking care of that. That's all I have on that. So with that, we'll go to, the general manager is not here, but we'll go to a report from our assistant general manager.
I wasn't sure if Colmar had anything to report.
Oh, I'm sorry. Out of sight, out of mind. Legal counsel update.
No update from legal counsel.
Okay, thank you. Lizette?
I don't have anything to report for Steve, but I do have a report for myself. At the last board meeting, we provided an update to the board with respect to the recent changes in legislation and how that's impacted this district with respect to the changes that we've made internally on discontinuation of service due to non-payment. And because of the increase in delinquent accounts, the district has implemented additional measures to help remind customers that their accounts are delinquent and that they need to pay those delinquencies. And because of those additional measures, we did see a reduction, but now we feel that we have to, on a monthly basis, implement those so that way customers are reminded that they have to pay their bills and they have to pay their bills on time. Again, district staff is still reviewing alternative collection options, and we'll be bringing those back to the board for further consideration. Also, district staff was in the process of coordinating with the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California's reclamation facility, a tour of their facilities in Carson, and I received an email from their rep this morning that they have unfortunately canceled all tours because of the coronavirus. And so they'll be notifying us once they've resumed those tours, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that that's on hold right now. And then Brock will be expanding on our measures as far as the coronavirus is concerned in his report.
Yeah, it's coronavirus is really starting to ramp up, and it's got a notice, on my phone that President Trump has canceled all flights coming from Europe for the next 30 days except for the UK, and that the NBA has just suspended all games until further notice because of the coronavirus, because a player on the Utah Jazz has tested positive.
There are several board members and staff members that are scheduled to attend conferences, and so that's something that Brock and I were talking about earlier as to whether or not they're still scheduled. To date, we've yet to receive anything from those agencies saying that they've been canceled, but we'll let you know if something does come up.
The water reuse conference was canceled.
Okay.
Well, not canceled, they postponed. It will, anybody scheduled to go to the water reuse conference, they will have a information where and when, and everybody's reservations will be transferred to that venue.
Was that one scheduled in May?
Huh?
May?
That was scheduled in, I believe, May.
Okay.
And now I know that the CSDA Education Day, according to the CSDA website that I checked yesterday, they are not canceling their events so far. They're saying that if anybody has the coronavirus or has been exposed to it, that they will go ahead and let you cancel it. So they'll let you cancel it. Other than that, they're not canceling their events. And that's all I know on that one. But I do know that I got an email from the water reuse that their conference has been postponed.
Okay, we'll follow up on that. And then also just a reminder to please turn in your Form 700s.
Okay.
Those are due by April 1st. And that's all I have.
And Brad, was he in here this evening?
He was, but he doesn't have anything to report.
Okay. All right, and John's not here, so Brock, your report?
Thank you. District staff continues to monitor the COVID-19 coronavirus and its potential effects on the water and wastewater industry. We've been reviewing frequent updates from agencies such as the Water Environment Federation, the CDC, World Health Organization, and the California Association of Sanitation Agencies. According to a technical brief that was published by the World Health Organization on March 3rd, 2020, there is no evidence of the survival of the virus in water or sewage. However, district staff continues to follow standard safety protocol and wear appropriate PPE according to OSHA guidelines. We have also increased our cleaning frequency around the facility here to help protect staff and the public.
Okay. As we talked about that, I'm not surprised they would find it, but I didn't think it would be the survivability of it was very likely.
And there's actually a lab in Arizona that's volunteering to sample or volunteering to run samples of wastewater collection systems in districts that are known to have coronavirus cases to see if it can live in the sewage. Obviously, there's no reported cases in our area, so we wouldn't qualify for that, but it's something to consider that there's labs conducting studies on that right now.
And as far as the front is concerned, staff is constantly utilizing gloves. So if people in the community mention something, we just need to protect ourselves because they are handling cash. And it will tend to stay on paper longer. So we're just, again, implementing preventative measures to safeguard our employees.
Are we dusting off the training and doing refresher courses on safe handling of sewage and working around sewage and things and handling and everything else?
Brock and I talked about it this morning. He's going to be holding safety meetings and reminding his employees.
We conduct weekly safety meetings with Public Works employees. It's a different topic every week, but lately it has been personal protective equipment, hand washing, and hand protection. So we're focusing heavily on that because of the current climate.
And I would caution that to make sure that all the employees know, especially the ones that work out at the sewage treatment plant or work around the sewers, not to wear their uniforms home. Change here and let the uniform company do the laundering.
Correct.
Okay. All right, and with that, I will ask for a motion for adjournment.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, motion is made by Director Washington, seconded by Director Glennon. All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned at 7:05.